So customers don't care what it costs you to do the job. They don't care how long it costs you. They do understand that there are costs to doing your job and that you are in business to make a profit. There is a realization your customers are not expecting you to work for peanuts, because they want you to do a good job and they want you to be here next year when they want the next job done. They know you've got to make a profit. What they are trying to decide is the price you want to charge value for money for them? And therefore your cost structure, your profit margins, your ambitions, the fact that you want to have a nice holiday, so you've got to charge more, none of that is relevant for them. What they're looking at is, how much are you going to charge? Does that make sense for me? And they can only make that judgment if we talk about all the other parts of the equation. If the only thing we talk about is price, that is what they're going to talk about. So just by way of illustration, you will probably, many of you, get asked for a quote. How much is it going to be for this? So imagine a typical job that you would be asked to quote. And again, you've got slightly different businesses on the call today, so they'll all be slightly different versions. But the process might be, you meet with the customer to discuss what they want. So they say, I want to build this kitchen extension. I want this, I want this, I want this. You then go away and work out the plan. You cost the materials, you cost the labor, and you say, okay, I want to make a bit of money out of this. So I think that's the right profit margin to add on to get to where I want to be. So we're making all those calculations. You send the quote and you wait. And you wait. And then you might wait a bit more. There's a couple of points here that are really important. In the process of doing any quotes, every survey I've ever seen says the most important factor to win the quote or not win the quote is to be the first quote that arrives. Speed of getting your quote done has a significantly tenfold greater impact on whether you win that job than the price that you put on that quote. And even if you're in a competitive tender situation, somebody's been told to get 3 quotes, they don't really care. First quote in, that looks reasonable, you can have that job. If you are late to the party, it doesn't matter what your price is, you're probably going to miss out. Okay, so speed is really important. So you send the quote and wait, you've got to follow it up, you've got to chase it up. Did you get the quote, etc., etc. What could possibly go wrong? Let me just give you an alternative perspective on sending that quote out. So rather than go and have a chat, spend a lot of time working out materials, labor, working out profit margin, having a bit of a stab at it and putting that in writing saying, there's my quote. What else could you do? You could have a conversation that says, okay, before I go away and do the quote, I'd just like to talk about the kind of quality that you're looking for in this kitchen extension. Some of our customers, they just want a good standard finish. They just want a basic job done well, nothing too fancy. But other clients want absolutely top quality, the best materials, the best finishes, all the final bits and pieces. Now, we're not going to do crap. The job is going to be done right. But the choice of materials and finishes, we can flex that. Could you help me understand what you're looking for? And of course, they will come back with I've got a tight budget. I just want a nice kitchen. And yeah, I appreciate we might have to compromise on some of the finishings, in which case, there's a price sensitivity to that quote. Well, they could come back and say, look, we're spending a ton of money. We just remortgaged the house. We're going to be here for 20 years. We want it right. And price is less of an issue to that customer. So you immediately, by trying to be helpful, and if that's said in the right way, the customer goes, oh, that was a really interesting conversation. I hadn't thought of that. They don't think of it as a negotiation. They think of it as you trying to help them decide on the right standard of finish, but you immediately get valuable feedback about what kind of customer you're dealing with. Similarly, you could ask a question about, can I ask how urgent it is? Now, I could get to the job very quickly, but I'm going to have to move loads of work around to create that space. I don't want to start the job unless I know I've got all the time in the world to finish it, but that is going to be a bit more expensive. If it's not so urgent, then we can schedule it in and we can plan to get there, and we'll fit it around some other jobs so it still gets done right, but maybe that's a month or so away. If we do it that way, that's a bit more cost effective. So how urgent it is. And they'll come back and they'll say, I want it done by Christmas because we've got family coming down, so it's really urgent. Or they'll go, oh, no, okay, no, that's fine. We'd rather have a cheaper job. So if that's got to fit around you, when do you think you can do it? Again, they will guide you as to whether they're bothered about speed or not bothered about speed. They'll give you that information because you're asking it in a nice way. You could also ask the $64,000 question of, do you have a budget in mind? I've still got to go away and cost it. I've got to work out what's the cost. But there's no point in me doing all that work if you think it's a £5 job and I know it's going to be an absolute minimum of £10,000. So I just want to get a feeling for what your budget is, and then I can start to work on, yeah, we could do that within that range, or we might have to compromise on the finishes to hit that budget, or you might go, oh, I don't really know, perhaps I do need to spend a bit more, but I just need to know where we are on that scale. And again, I have done that thousands of times in my business, where we go, look, we've got this project, it's a complicated project. For some clients, it's, £5,000 or £6,000, depending on the speed and complexity. For some clients, it's £10,000 or £15,000. And if the client goes, oh yeah, I was expecting 15, bingo, I know what my budget is. If the client says, blimey, that's expensive, I wasn't expecting to be more than 5, I then have a choice of whether I go closer to 5 or say, no, thank you, that job's not for me. Okay, does that make sense? It's a dialogue with your customer to try and uncover their sensitivity to quality, to speed, to price, to all those other issues, in a way that the customer actually thinks you're doing a great job looking after them.